Hello, it is I, Dave Duford, here at Final Expense Agent Mentor at feagentmentor.com, and I want to welcome you again to yet another hopefully enjoyable, educational, and most importantly, actionable final expense sales training, no BS final expense sales training. So thanks again for joining. So today we will be talking about how to sell final expense and how to position yourself specifically as the only and obvious solution to your prospects when you sell them final expense insurance. So as I discussed in the promotional material, today, if you're a new agent or experienced agent and you're looking for ways to maximize your effectiveness and your ability to make it completely obvious to your prospects that you are the choice when it comes down to buying a final expense policy, then this training is going to be absolutely perfect for you. I think you're going to find a lot of value in it. I think it's going to be completely actionable, and let's get started. So first of all, it's important to understand where we are in the timeline of things when it comes to the actual presentation model. If you've paid any attention to my other training sessions, if you haven't watched, go watch last week's and then the weeks before. If you look under the just my series of videos, you'll see the live stream options. The key thing to understand is that this is part 3 out of 4 parts in the sales process, and where we are right now is very important because it's important to look back before we move forward and understand the powerful position we're in as a final expense agent and presenting what we do relative to what we have already uncovered and learned about our prospect. So number one, we have built some level of rapport and trust with our prospects. Very important to understand so that they somewhat like us and are open-minded to what we're doing and how it could benefit them. And then number 2, we have done an effective job pre-qualifying our prospects to know that they have need, they have desire, they health qualify, they have a bank account, and they've got a budget that they are 100% certain of being able to afford. They are what we call a high odds prospect. Up to this point, we should have all of this before proceeding to the third part, this particular part of the sales presentation. I will tell you this, it's all downhill from here if you have done all of the heavy lifting, all of the hard work up to this point. Okay, so all of this, while it's important, while it's effective, you've done about 80% of the presentation as far as the value and deriving urgency, need, desirability, and making sure that they fit the criteria of making them a good prospect for you to sell them. So what we're going to do now is not entirely complex, but it puts the final touches on the presentation to differentiate yourself in a specific way from the big competitors out there and allows you to make it completely obvious to your prospect that you are the person to buy from, that if they want everything they've described already ahead of time that they wanted, that your choice is the best choice for them. And that's the goal of today's training, is to get you to that point where you can position yourself, again, just the last little bits here to get to the point of, hey, I'm the guy, and not saying it, but basically implying it through what you value, what you train, or what you show them that they should buy from you, because if they value everything they said they have, you're the guy with the solution. So before we get started, if you've got any questions or comments, it doesn't even have to be related to this particular training session. If you have any particular sales training, final expense questions, leads questions, carrier questions, anything at all, I feel, I welcome you to put your comments down here in the comment box. I'm looking at it right now, so if you got any comments, you're welcome to share with us. I may not answer them unintentionally because I'll go off screen sometimes and talk, come back and check the chat box. So feel free to ask questions. I'll address them at the end of the conference call and be willing to help you out in any way that I can. So lastly, I'll also mention here, if you don't know, in addition to helping agents get into this business, if you're interested in joining the mentorship program, go to my website. It's feagentmentor.com. Go to the contact box and send a submission form requesting more information. I'll be happy to share with you kind of what we do, how we do things, and giving you more information. If you're an agent interested in trying out leads like avatar telemarketing leads, or you're interested in purchasing my official guide to selling final expense insurance book, go to my website, look under the Buy Products page. I got lots of stuff available. Feel free to check it out. Maybe I can help you out and give you some material to help you become a better final expense agent. So let's go ahead and get started. So we are now at the point where we know and have just asked and confirmed what their budget is. At this point, the key thing with presenting what we sell is to basically create some level of awareness that they're familiar with other competitors, and not just telling them we're better, but actually showing them that what we do is better than what the competition does. Now, I'll say this. First of all, I'm going to show you some brochures that I actually show that come from our competitors that position us in a great way. And if you're interested in downloading them for yourself, let me know. You can go to my website, go to the contact page, fill out a form, say, Dave, I want those brochures. I'll be happy to email them to you. So just keep that in mind as you're looking through here. Secondly, the great thing about us and the business that we're in is our competitors, the big ones, suck. And I mean, I just say it straight out like that because our competition is horrible. The big guys that spend $1 million a year on junk mail and TV ads and everything else are really some of the worst final expense options out there. I'm not even talking about our captive agent buddies that work for the company named after a president or other outfits that aren't necessarily brokers. I'm talking about MetLife, AARP, New York Life, Colonial Penn. These are the names that are so familiar to so many of our prospects that it does you a world of good to mention them in conversation in order to position what we do compared to them because they're just so bad. And the great thing is that by doing so, you're going to build a level of trust and expertise and authority because you can name drop all these companies they've seen for years on TV and in the mail, and then not just tell them, but show them via the brochures how you're different and why that matters for them. That's the key thing. So with that said, on a higher level, what we do in the presentation process is not hard sell. We educate. It's almost in a neutral, slightly excited manner, but we're actually taking the time to explain to the prospect everything, how it works, what each of these companies in our competition does, and then lastly, explaining what we do in relativity to what they do and why that matters and why it's important. Again, the good news, it's very easy for these people to understand how we're better, how we're different, and all the things necessary to get them a good deal. So that at the conclusion, it's obvious. You know, somebody with a half a brain or a half of a brain will know that your decision, your options are much better than what else is out there. So how do I start this off? Well, when I learned final expense, I thought that the best way to learn final expense was to explain the difference between really term insurance and whole life insurance. There's other insurance options out there, but the reality is that most of what your prospects are going to see are going to be those two types of insurance. So I want to keep the educational process as simple as possible. As the old saying goes, you want to take the complex and make it simple. You don't want to make the complex and make it more complex because confused people who are still confused won't buy. So, but people who understand the basics and understand the differences and what's in it for them will buy from you if you can make the complex simple. So keep that in mind. I'm not doing a full-throttled, full-throated presentation on all these sorts of life insurance options. I'm taking relevant options they've seen and pulling back the curtain to show them why they're good and why they're not good. Usually it's why they're not good, because they're not. So the way I start is talking about term life insurance, and here's exactly what I say when I've got a prospect in front of them after I ask the premium question. I said, well, now that I know what your budget is and ask you all these questions, my question to you, Mrs. Prospect, is this. Do you know the difference between term life and whole life insurance? 95% of the time they're going to say, no, I've always wondered that, or I don't really know, or sometimes they'll give you an answer, and it doesn't matter what the answer is. If they know it, then congratulate them, and then just continue to go through the process, because sometimes there's still even confusion if they understand a very basic level of the insurance options. So what I tell them is this. Well, Mr. Jones, let me go ahead and explain this to you because it's really important you understand the difference so you can choose the best option for you and your family. So term insurance is what you get all the time from AARP and Global Life. You've gotten your mailers, right, or you've seen them on TV. Usually they're like, yeah, I throw them right in the garbage, is what they say 3 out of 4 times. I said, well, okay, good. And here's the thing you have to understand about how these plans work. So term insurance is short for terminating insurance. Terminating. And usually they kind of look at you funny. So let me explain what that means. When you buy a term insurance plan, it's actually designed to terminate at a certain year later down the line. And then they kind of look at you a little strange. And so let me explain what I mean. When you buy a plan, like from a term insurance company, and you reach a certain age, it's gone. All that money you've put into it is theirs. You don't get it back, okay? There's no refund on that premium. And so at the end of the day, the risk with buying a term insurance plan is that you may make it to the end and still be alive. And now you don't have any insurance. You're up the creek without a paddle, Mrs. Jones. And the companies that do that are AARP and Globe Life. And let me actually show you, Mrs. Jones, what I mean by that. Take a look at this brochure. So at this point, what I do, and I'm going to actually show you what I show them. And again, if you're interested in getting this from me, you can go to my website, go to the contact box, to fill a form out, say, Dave, give me the brochures for AARP and Colonial Penn. I'll be happy to show them to you. So let me show you over my desktop here and show you what I actually show them. So I pull this thing up and I show them AARP. Again, this is a brochure that you can just request by mail. And then I show them and highlight exactly level term benefits so they know it's term. And then I actually scroll down to the second page here, and it's kind of hard to see here, but it's highlighted down here where it says question, will my benefits decrease? It says it doesn't decrease until insurance ends at age 80. And then it says prices increase, go up every 5 years. And then it says here to clarify, you can keep this protection until insurance ends at age 80. And so what I tell them when I'm talking to this and I'm trying to say, look here for yourself, Mrs. Jones, I want you to see that I'm not just making this up. You see right here where it says your insurance ends at 80? Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. They see it's AARP, they see all this. I said, if you get this plan, yeah, you're covered today. But as you can see, 2 things happen. First of all, your prices go up before you canceled, so it may be affordable today, but tomorrow it's not. It's the old bait and switch maneuver that nobody likes. And then if you get through all the price increases and you get to age 80, you lose your coverage. They don't give you your money back and you've lost everything. So Mrs. Jones, I want you to understand something very important. I do not offer term insurance because I do not believe it is the best choice for final expense protection. The question to you is this: are you planning on dying before 80 or after 80? Usually they look at me and they say, I don't know. Or they'll say, I hope I live till after. Very few say, I hope I die before. And you can't help those people anyway. Either way they answer, I say that's exactly right. The fact is, nobody knows when they're going to die, so why get a plan that may not be there when you need it? Doesn't make much sense. So that's term insurance. So then I conclude and summarize everything I just told them. So that's term insurance that terminates at 80 again. It goes up in price as you get older, something you don't want. The next option for coverage is what's called guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance. You've probably seen ads on TV, right, where Colonial Penn is playing an ad, or MetLife, all those guys. They say you don't have to answer questions. If you can sign your name, you get coverage. That sound familiar? You're usually like, yeah, I see that stuff all the time. I'll say, look, guaranteed acceptance insurance, what they do is they don't ask questions, but in the fine print, the devil's in the details. In the fine print, it says that for the first 2 years, you are not covered until you live past those 2 years. And if you do die, they refund your money. So take a look here, Mrs. Jones. Let me show you off camera here what I mean. If you look here on page 1, it says right here, guaranteed acceptance, there's a 2-year limited death benefit period. And it says if you die from non-accidental death, you'll get your premiums you paid in plus 7% interest compounded. And then I go here, this is actually the front page of the application, and show them here that it's limited during the first 2 years. And so the reason this is important to explain to them, hopefully, is obvious. Again, we want them to understand that the big names with all the money and the endorsements from popular celebratory people are pointless and are trying to cover up the fact that the company's trying to screw them. We want to dig that in. We don't want to insult the company, but we want to show them by their own admission that they're not going to do the best job for the client. And so when they're looking at this, they're like, geez, wow, I never knew that. I said, that's right. And I'll tell you this, now I'm going back in the script now, so I'll tell you this, Mrs. Jones. This plan is perfect for somebody who's on their deathbed. If they are in bad shape, they've got Alzheimer's, they're just in the worst shape possible, this is the perfect plan. It's the last option available. Here's the deal. With your health issues, even despite what you have, the fact is that you can qualify for first day full coverage and you don't have to wait, and you can get a lot better options than this. So that brings me to what I do. So let me explain to you how I work and help people like yourself. I do what's called final expense whole life insurance. The way it works is very simple. Number one, my rates never go up. So the quote I give you is locked in place for the rest of your life. You will never have a price increase, guaranteed. Number two, the coverage never cancels because of age or health. You don't have to worry about the coverage going away at age 80, 90, 100, or whenever. As long as you pay your premiums, you have your coverage on the books, even if your health changes. And lastly, you're 100% coverage from the first premium payment. So after you make your first payment, God forbid if something happens, you are fully protected, and your family is as well. So the bottom line, Mrs. Jones, if you're looking for peace of mind and you don't want to get jerked around by these other companies and you just want an insurance plan that will do what it says it's going to do, protect your family, and not jerk you around on price or canceling, my plan is the job and the way to do that. Does that make sense to you? Perfect. So my question to you is this, Mrs. Jones. Out of all the options I've showed you, term insurance that goes up in price and cancels, guaranteed acceptance life insurance that doesn't cover you for 2 years, and my plan where the rates don't go up, the coverage never cancels, and you're fully covered from the first premium, which one works best for what you're looking to accomplish? At this point, off script here, it's obvious. It almost sounds like a dumb question I'm asking them, right? I mean, it's like, well, duh. The other ones suck. This one's got to be the one to get. I mean, I'd say it so bluntly, but it's the truth. And the reason you do that is because I believe the best person to persuade someone of something is your own self. People that arrive at their own decisions and hear themselves telling themselves that it is the best decision is a powerful sales tactic. I don't want to push anybody into anything. I want them to admit through their own deductions and their own presentation of what it is that I'm showing them that my option is the best for them. Whoops. And so with that said, the bottom line is if I can hear them say, yeah, yours is the best choice, and they say that, and I say, well, what do you like about it the best? They're going to feed me everything that really gets them going about what it is I'm doing in a positive way. And if I can get them to do that, then they're sold. They're sold conceptually at this point, at least, on the product. And that's the goal of this particular type and this particular part of the sales presentation process. If you can go back to summarize, we have knocked out the biggest competition. We don't have to go line by all the competitors. We just have to knock out enough of the big ones to get rid of those as options so that we can position ourselves as the ultimate and best source or resource or option to buy insurance from. We've knocked out the big names. We've shown them why. We've not just asked them to trust us. We've shown them on paper with their own paperwork why they're an inferior choice. And we bolstered our positioning as an answer to all the deficiencies in the other product. And at the very end, we offered a trial close. And we basically asked them, which works best for you? They conceptually closed and agreed on what we do as being the best, and they gave us the reasons why they think so. We didn't feed it. We didn't force feed it. Sorry, my phone's going off. They arrived at their own conclusion based on our presentation. And so this is a critical component, and right before we actually close the deal, to get them to agree verbally that what we do is their best option if they really want a good final expense plan that does exactly conceptually what they want out of a burial insurance plan. And they appreciate this process too, I'll mention, because what happens is that when we actually tell them about all this stuff, we're not doing any high pressure pitching here. I mean, I'm excited, but I'm not pushing the gamut here. I'm just telling them what we do, how it works, how these guys do it, and we're showing it to them. I'm not really pushing or persuading in an aggressive manner at all. And so these people know that. They respect that. They like that. And people want to do business with people that they trust as experts. And again, very easy to do this. We don't need high pressure to sell this stuff if we do all the other steps correctly. Because when we lay it on the line and show them the different options, it's obvious that they should do business with us without putting a gun to their head. So I'm going to answer a question here. Hey, Todd, how you doing today, sir? Thanks for your question. Let me read it out loud. I'm just getting it. What if during the pre-qualification we learn the prospect does have a medical condition where they may not qualify for immediate coverage? How do you alter your presentation? Very good question. So first of all, for you, Todd, you call the bat phone and give Dave a call. A lot of these carriers out there may cover this person that you may not necessarily have access to yet, Todd, but I can tell you some other options that are out there that may surprisingly take the people. So always try to give me a call first if you're an agent of mine. I want to help you. I want to get this deal closed, and having multiple options really is the best way to get more first day full coverage issued and paid for. Let's say that that's not the case. How do you present this in a sense that, well, how do I know where to put this person, and what do I say to the person in order to convince them, or at least position ourselves still as the best option? So in short, here's what I don't change. I don't change the term insurance portion of what you just heard. I do change the guaranteed acceptance. I drop off entirely any mention of my guaranteed acceptance carriers. And the reason is I want the guaranteed acceptance business, because we've got companies that will take issues that maybe we couldn't get first day full coverage for, but we could get a 2-year wait. So I want to position what I do in a way that contrasts against the term policy still. I want term insurance to be the bad guy. I want the concept of a price going up and the coverage canceling at a later date still to be inconceivable to these people. So I want their mind to be focused on that. And at the same time, I'm going to tell them exactly what it is that I can do, why I can't get them first day full coverage, and then I'm going to ask them outright, hey, I find there's 2 different types of people. The first one is they understand their health is in bad shape, and they understand that if I could get them better coverage, I would, but they go ahead and get the 2-year waiting period policy anyway because there just isn't any other choice. And then choice 2 is they just won't buy it if they don't get first day coverage. Where do you stand on that? So let me go through how this actually sounds. So I'll say, so that's term insurance, Mrs. Jones. The price goes up, coverage ever canceled. Let me tell you how I do things. I do what's called final expense whole life insurance. There's some good and then there's some bad. I'm going to give it to you both and shoot you straight so you can make a decision if it was what I do makes sense for what you're looking to accomplish. So first of all, let me tell you the good. My rates do not go up, unlike term insurance, and my coverage never cancels either because of age or health. As long as you pay, you've got the coverage, okay? So that's the good thing. The not so good thing is because of your COPD, bipolar, you take 200 units of insulin a day, you're wheelchair bound, and you got lupus and a little Parkinson's. I can't do anything. I can't get you first day full coverage, Mrs. Jones. There's just no way about it. And I hope you understand, with all those conditions, most companies would not even want to talk to you. However, I can get you what's called a 2-year waiting period policy. Let me explain to you how it works. When you take this out, first of all, you're covered 100% if you died from an accident, okay? But regarding any first day coverage for natural death, you've got to get through 2 years of paying. But once you're past the 2 years, you're 100% covered. Nobody can take that away from you as long as you keep up with the premiums. Now look, the bottom line here, Mrs. Jones, is I don't want to give you a 2-year waiting period policy. I would much rather give you first day full coverage. But I'm only limited by the carrier options that I have, and I have access to most of the best options right now. And really what we can do anyway is pretty much the same thing you're going to see from MetLife and Colonial Penn, but at a much more competitive price. So here's where I'm going with this. There's 2 different types of people that I run into, Mrs. Jones, that when I show these plans. First kind, accept the fact that they're not in the best health and understand that this is the only option they're going to get, so they take it. Not for the short term, but the understanding long term they're going to be protected. And then the second group of people They just can't accept the fact of not getting any sort of insurance immediately, and they don't take it. And either way is fine. I respect that decision. My question to you is, where do you fit between these two groups? So here's what I've done. Let me kind of recap everything the best I can. As I said all that off the top of my head. Let's start with the end. I disposition them into two groups because I've experienced over thousands of presentations. There's a group of people that hate the idea of a 2-year wait. Then there's a group of people that will accept it because they just feel like that's their only option. I don't pussyfoot around with it anymore. I want to know which one they fit into. I'm going to sell it a little bit, obviously. But if they just can't accept it, I'm packing up the bags and I'm heading out there. I've never convinced somebody who thought it was a bad deal to begin with and then turn them over. Hey, Bobby, I'll get your question in just a second, okay? So I just lay it out flat. Again, I'm straightforward in my presentation. I'm going to get to the point. And if they can't accept it, fine. I'll go find a real prospect. So I want to handle this stuff up front. I'm not going to hide it from them. I'm going to let them know right up front, this is how it works. Here's the details on how it works so that they can see it all for themselves. Now, going back to the positioning thing, I tell them there's good and bad to it. Again, I'm a salesperson. I'm not going to pretend everything's good, but I think people like the frankness when you're going to tell them, hey, look, I'm going to shoot you straight and tell you there's some good things about what we can do and there's some not so good things. I lay out the pros, I lay out the cons, and I try to justify while I'm laying out the cons why people would get the plan anyway. And I sell the fact that it's not in the beginning that you want it, and this is necessarily immediately the reason you want it, because you're not covered. It's the long term. The hope is you live a long time, and once you get past those 2 years, it's the best plan you've ever had because you're fully covered. And I'll even share stories about clients I've known who started with 2-year plans that died literally months after their 2-year wait was up. One had mental issues, another person came down with cancer or something like that, had cancer or something like that. And if it wasn't for me positioning it this way and them taking the plan, they would have never had coverage. And in both cases, one had $15,000, the other had $7,500. And so I know it's good to get these plans. It's just all in the proper framing of doing it. And for me, as you guys know, if you watch my material a lot, I'm straightforward. I want them to understand exactly what they're getting into. And I want to know where things stand so I can figure out what my time is worth spending with them or not. And so that's how I do that, Todd. I hope that answers your question. But, I do mention MetLife and Colonial Penn, but kind of as an afterthought, I say, hey, look, this is the same thing they're going to do, but we're going to be better priced, and we are, MetLife, Colonial Penn, very overpriced companies, which is why I mention them. Todd, if you got a follow-up question to that, feel free to ask. Bobby here asks, hey, Dave, my name's Bobby. My question is this. Is there a difference between life insurance and final expense insurance? If so, will you do a presentation on it? No, there's not really a difference at all. All we sell is life insurance, but we give it different brand names or marketing names to kind of better describe the intended marketplace. So, life insurance, of course, is bottom line, a plan that pays when someone dies. Final expense is but life insurance can be sold to protect the house, pay for mortgages, buy-sell arrangements with partners in a business, so on and so forth. What final expense is a simplified issue product. We do a minimal amount of underwriting where there's no medical exam required. We just get a bunch of questions answered, check the MIB, Medical Information Bureau, and prescription databases to confirm, and hopefully get a decision immediately or pretty quick if you've got to fax the app in within a day or two. The advantages of that is that the underwriting is much more flexible. You get a decision much faster, which is fundamental in the final expense marketplace, is to get people covered on the first call, and you're off to the races after that. And so there's really not a difference. It's really, the main thing is a difference in the people we sell to. Life insurance is sold to everybody, but final expense is specifically pretty much for people 50 and older. Blue collar, retired, fixed income types are the buyers, and they usually they have no money, have no savings, very little if they do, and they know if they die, it's on their brothers, family, sisters, daughters, kids, spouse, and if they don't get it, they're in bad shape. So that's the marketplace. That's the main difference, as on top of the fact that the product's usually a lot easier to deal with. You don't have a 12-week pipeline like you do with fully underwritten products. You get the deal or you don't. It's nice. Daniel, what's up, Daniel? Daniel says they know they need it. They just want it for free. Ain't that the truth? It's funny, I'll make as a side comment. I've been doing this for 6 years now. And you don't realize it till you're in the business that long that these people, like there's so many final expense agents now that use direct mail and other programs. And the bottom line is that they all know what these cards are about. They've sent off these cards before. They've sent off multiple cards before. I've had people who send 5, 6 cards back. They all know what they're getting into. And the old saying that buyers are liars holds a kernel of truth in it. I've grown to not accept the same level of BS from prospects as much as I used to. They just, people just aren't straightforward. We wish that they were, but they are looking, they're interested and they're looking for a deal or whatever. But these people should know better because they have sent these cards off that there's nothing in life for free. Although a lot of these people are getting a lot of stuff for very little, if no expense. So maybe for them, there are such things as free stuff in life. They'd be all over it if it was, but unfortunately, got to take some money from them to get them covered. Hey, Salehi, getting 10,000 coverage for say $50 a month is practically free. I wish we could convince some of these people of that. Problem is, there's a lot of them that are deadbeats that would wake up the next morning and prefer their smokes and booze. And the impact we made on these prospects tends to wear off, which is why I'm not much into the persuasion game. As funny as it may sound, we're salespeople selling life insurance, right? I vehemently, well, let me rephrase that. I emphatically believe that people who push hard, I'm not saying you do, by the way, Slady, but people who push too hard on these prospects will be very good at closing deals, but they'll also have some of the worst persistency and quality of business metrics. I've shared this story once. I heard of a guy in Knoxville, top producer for a big agency out of the Southeast, also the highest lapse ratios because he came from the used car business where high pressure sales was the norm. Got back into used car sales after the first year, even though he had sold the most. And so it's very important. You almost have to restrain yourself and your level of salesmanship because these people we sell to can be impressionable. And they can make bad decisions and regret them because many times the people we deal with have made a series of unending bad decisions in their lives. And we've got to almost be like the adult. Again, not out of disrespect am I saying this. We've got to be the adult leading the children, making sure they make good decisions and walking them back off the ledge if they think they're going to plunge into some huge premium that they really can't afford because they don't make that much anyway. So anyways, hopefully that makes sense. For you guys who've been selling this stuff, y'all know what I mean. So beyond that, guys, that's how you present. At this point, they're conceptually sold on whole life final expense insurance, whether it's first day full coverage or like Todd requested, if it's how do you position something where you have to do a 2-year wait. You want them conceptually sold before you go to close them. The good news is, like I said in the very beginning, it's a downward hill. If you've got them conceptually sold, which is the easy part, 99% of the people are going to say, yeah, your solution's the best. Once you get that part done, the close is easy. That's what we'll talk about next time. And really all the close involves is presenting who we sell for, why we're picking them, and then the series of prices that fit their price range they gave us earlier, and just asking for the business. It's very simple. And that's what we'll cover next week, along with some objection rebuttals, and your questions if you have any. Other than that, guys, my name is David Duford at Final Expense Agent Mentor at feagentmentor.com. If you're interested in the mentorship program, interested in buying my official guide to selling final expense life insurance, or buying leads, other stuff that I sell, I got a whole lot of stuff. Check my website out, feagentmentor.com. And thank you so much, as always, for watching today's live training on YouTube. And we'll see you next Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Take care.